Hey guys, Sean, less lethal for dummies. Unboxing, sort of. Tippmann, Tipx. Little backstory. The Tipx was my very first successful less lethal launcher, probably over 4 years ago. When I was looking into less lethal, I came across the salt supply, which was kind of the original, the OG version of this in a less than lethal launcher. And I can remember much fun being made of it at the time, but I went ahead and ordered a Tipx, and I still have that Tipx today, although it is much more modified. So I thought I'd go back to my roots, and going along with the little poll that I had, the Tipx was it was up 1% at the time when I decided, you know what, I'm going back to a Tipx because it was such a good launcher, and I love the pull to pierce option, much like the Burna. So let's get to it. And this is just gonna kind of be a brief overview. We're not gonna tear into it yet today. All right, so in the box you get barrel plug, so a little bit of lithium or silicone grease. And here's some Allen keys in there. Oh, there they are. Some Allen keys in there to adjust your velocity. Not a whole lot. Magazine, and you also get a magazine that is already installed in the marker. And of course your manual, which is over here. I don't need that. We don't need that. All right, so what can I tell you about the Tipx? It has gone through a few updates over the years. It was originally known as the TPX, and I can't tell you a whole lot about that. Most of the changes were internal. They, went to some more reliable options. One thing that has changed of late with the Tipx in its latest version is my original version of this 4 years ago. Here's your velocity adjuster. Had a PRV screw down the inside, much like the FSC and, the FSC that I can think of off the top of my head. There are a few other markers, but not in this manner where it was inside the velocity adjuster. And that was very, very troublesome. To tune that marker, it really took a lot of my patience, and it may have spawned the love that I have for less lethal launchers now, because I did put a lot of time into that particular marker, and it's actually been PRV deleted now. But my objective this time around is not to go too crazy. This is going to be a marker for my wife that can be on the ready for her because of the pull to pierce. And I kind of got away from what I was just talking about, and that was the PRV. In the latest updated version, this has a spring-loaded check ball in there, so to speak. It's non-adjustable. So if your marker blows off, your only option is to dial it back unless you delete it. And deleting this particular PRV is a little more involved, because you got to drill the stem and put in and tap and put in your own set screw. And it can actually create more problems. The Tipx, the way it works, it's a spool valve. So when you pull the trigger and you kind of hear that venting, that's how a spool valve works. And it needs some place to vent to, which happens to be the PRV. Comparing this to, say, the Salt Supply or the Sabre, I think it's SL7, this comes with a standard air valve, paintball air valve in it. I can't speak specifically for the Salt, but the Sabre does come with the TCR valve installed. And if you are living under a rock, Berna has now taken over the sale of the TCR, and those valves have they've become no longer available from Tippmann parts. I happen to have one that I purchased and just had as a spare, but we're not going to go that route on this. And that was the easiest upgrade you could do to the TIPX, is just toss a TCR valve in there, and this thing could be 40 joules easily. Introduce HPA, and you know, sky's the limit, but this marker really was good about 40. Any higher and it started to become, it had some problematic O-rings, and well, we'll just leave it at that. Aside from that difference with the Sabre, I believe the Sabre also has the velocity blocked out in the back. The Salt does not. The Sabre does, but the adjuster is actually still there. It's inside the clamshell, so if you wanted to make the adjustment, you could drill your casing, or you could just open your marker and dial it up. This is round ball only. These are 7-round magazines, I believe. Yes, it says 7 on the side. So you got 2 of these. You can do the FSR upgrade, which is an upgrade to that block in there. You can see that block just has a round hole for round balls. And I will be doing that. Another thing that I wanted to clear up is, seeing as how this is my first, and I'm assuming the newest generation of the TIPX, I had heard that the magazines were shape projectile ready. In fact, they are not. Let me just grab one here. So here's a can of rye ball, clearly goes in there. And these mag springs are pretty weak. So we're gonna be looking at upgrading those, but I have a little surprise that I'm gonna show you guys here. Once we get to putting some rounds down range. Here you can see shape projectiles do not fit, but there is a mod for that. You can actually take a file and you can file this little corner out. You can see where it hits right there. So it doesn't take much to get them to actually fit in here. But you would still need the D block in the actual marker, otherwise it's all for naught. Out of the box, really, there's nothing to do to this marker. It is put a CO2 in and go for it. And then just slowly start dialing your velocity up. And when you get too far in advance, back it off a little. There's one thing I will suggest, and I'm going to demonstrate for you to do if this is your first TIPX and you just open the box, is grab a CO2 that you are going to be using on a regular basis and adjust your cap so that your trigger function here, your pull to pierce, functions properly. And let me just go grab a CO2 and we'll do that adjustment right now. All right, so I could use the Allen keys in the bag here, but I'm just gonna use my standard Bonda set here. So CO2 goes in forward facing, sorry. Put your cap on. And it's twist lock. It's like probably a quarter turn. And see that? See how like loosey-goosey that trigger is? You want it to be like maybe more like that, just to ensure you get a good puncture. It's probably going to puncture like this, but for the sake of making this marker reliable, you want to adjust that end cap so the trigger is more like maybe an 1/8 of an inch pull. So the way you do that, take your cap off. I think it's a 3/16. Now look down there, there is an Allen head set screw in there, which locks down this adjuster on your cap. So first you got to remove the locked screw here. So once you have that out, it exposes another Allen head inside here. Use the same Allen key. You can see how I'm turning it out. So what you want to do is, again, insert your cap like this. Take your Allen key. And now you don't want to crank this down. You just want to adjust it till it's pretty much just grabbed a little bit of tension. And you'll feel it just like that. Now we'll go back to the trigger here. And I actually put too much on that. So you can see there it's not even wiggling anymore. You don't want it too tight either, because you can actually damage the seal on puncture. So I'm gonna go ahead and back this off. Quarter turn. See that? See now how I got a little bit of trigger play? That's what I want to see. So I'm gonna take it off. And I am going to reinsert the locking screw. Just like that. There you go. She's locked in place. We'll just double check it again. Could probably loosen it just a little bit more, but I'm gonna leave it like that. I think that's pretty good. All right, I'm gonna use Byrna Kinetics. Because this factory barrel is pretty sloppy, it'll shoot, let's see here. I mean, it'll shoot HPs just perfectly. It has a little bit of, oh, can you actually hear that if you listen carefully? So it has a little bit of vacuum when I finger it. The camera eyeballs are definitely loose in this guy. Yeah, even when I finger in, they just plop right down on the bottom. Let's see, do I have a jewel kicking around here? I do have a jewel. Jewels probably fit really well in this as well. No, that went through like the riot ball actually. Is that a jewel? Yes, it is a jewel. Yeah, it's pretty loose in there. I can feel a little bit of vacuum, but nothing like those HPs. I think this barrel is like a 6.688 or 0.689. That seems to be what the factory barrels all are. I mean, the M17's like that as well. So I'm just gonna shoot Byrna Kinetics. They are 2.9 grams. And I'm not gonna make any adjustments to this marker for the first CO2. And we'll see what it shoots. All right, so we'll load up some Byrna Kinetics. I've got 7 here. You can actually lock the follower down just by pulling on it, or use a rod to push it down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. There you go. 7 in. And what I forgot to mention, which you guys already should know, I shouldn't have to tell you, is you should always put a dab of silicone oil on your tip. Helps keep your seal, your CO2 seal, supple. It also circulates through your marker to some degree. Safety on. Oh, there's already a magazine in there. Oh, premature ejection. So already it says 7. Yeah, I'd probably feel comfortable more with 6 if you're just gonna be mag slapping, but if you're careful, once they're in there, they are in there. All right. Safety glasses on, safety. So to puncture this marker, it obviously has to be off of safety, but it doesn't fire on the first round like a Berna does. It's puncture, so you have to pull twice to get it to fire. So for safety, because this is the first time putting a CO2 in this, I'm going to point it, and you should always point the direction you intend to, or in a safe direction anyways, but because this is an unknown, untested marker, I always give it the benefit that it is going to work as it should. There is the pierce. It did not fire, but it is ready to fire now. And on that pierce, it was the very first CO2, but I think I want to loosen that cap just a smidge. It was a very good pierce, but I'd like a little more, at least for my wife, I'd like the trigger to break a little more because she's got shorter fingers. But what you don't want to do is obviously reduce that break so much that it doesn't actually pierce the CO2. So it is somewhat adjustable, and it will depend a lot on how you set it up for yourself and what CO2s you're using. So Berna kinetics are 2.9 grams. Let's see how they do. This is unmodified, didn't turn the velocity screw, nothing at all. $312, pretty strong start. $304, you can hear those kinetics just whipping around in there. $294. $282. Performing as CO2 usually does. 270 it said, not 568. I have no idea why my X-rater has been doing this. I catch the right number, but then it just goes wonky. But it is giving accurate readings, guys. At least the initial one is. 272. I think we got one more. 270. Was it last one? Yes. Not bad out of the box, right? I mean, it performs about the same as an SD. Granted, the barrel length on this is much longer. This marker is much bigger. You can see, I mean, this is more like a kind of an underarm carry. I can't see, you know, an in the waistband. I mean, although you could, people do that with it. This kind of resembles a Desert Eagle in a way. So I'm gonna reload another magazine, and this was the surprise I got for you guys. Maybe I'm just the only one that doesn't know about it. This is a Vulcan SMG magazine. Previously, these did not fit Tipx because if you look here, see this kind of notch here at the bottom? It used to be up much higher, and to make this fit a Tipx, you actually had to grind the profile of the magazine to fit. They've already done it for us. And it's FSR ready, shape projectile ready. The spring, yeah, it could use some improvement, but for now, well, here, let me show you guys. Now it does fit a little bit tight, and I imagine it'll probably loosen up, but actually adds kind of a cool look to it, if I don't mind saying. Hopefully my black shirt isn't taking away too much here, but yeah, it's in there. Doesn't shoot the mag out like the factory ones, but I think it does need some breaking in. It's locked in, and we're gonna find out if it fires now. So I'll load it up. Obviously, I don't have a D block in that yet, so it's just gonna be round ball only. This spring is stronger than the standard 7 rounds. This holds 8. And unlike using this mag in a M17 where it's a ball on deck, this will fire every projectile into that you put in it out of your marker, because it actually ejects the balls by pressing up against that D block, or sorry, well, that breech block that's in there. So let's give her a shot. See, does it fire? Locked in. Burning kinetics again. 278. $276. I don't have many of those connects. I don't want to lose them. Whoa. 276. $280. And I got what? Oh yeah, there's 8 in here now. Way more shots. 278. 278. 276. That was the last one. It works. So the first upgrade is going to be a D block in this guy, but you can see here it's pretty consistent. So that was 8 and 6, so it's 15 rounds. Seems to have settled around 278, 276, 278. So I'm gonna throw a new CO2 in. I'm just gonna wind it up. And the purpose of this build is to have at least one full magazine at optimum efficiency, hopefully without any real droppers out of the end. So I'd like to utilize just one CO2, one mag, but I still want to see some real even numbers. We're not going for earth-shattering FPS with this. It's meant to be reliable, ready to go, and really convenient with the trigger pull. So let me grab a new CO2, wind it up. And actually I lied. I am going to just throw in some Grimberg Joules, 8 grams. Sorry. So this will be the 3rd magazine, and we'll see where we go. Saw me how to hit it again. it's working, and I got a feeling that it might be the breech block that's in here that's affecting the nice seating that you see from the standard magazine, but we will cross that bridge when we get to it. $170. $172. $170. Mosquitoes in here. Filthy bloodsuckers. $170. $168. $172. $170. $172. That was the last one. Another 8. I do like this magazine, just the length of it. Hopefully we can get that sorted out where it seats, every time. You guys are familiar with the True Feed magazines, the 12 round True Feeds, the long ones. They work great, but we're trying to keep this one pistol-ized. Pistol-ized, yes. I said pistol-ized. One thing I should mention, when you are extracting your CO2, obviously make sure you dump most of the CO2, but if you don't, when you crack this cap, you're gonna have excessive CO2 kind of blowing out inside there. What you don't wanna do is have too much, and if you have too much, give it a moment to warm up a little bit and take your CO2 out and just look at it to make sure that the seal that's inside here didn't actually freeze to the front of your CO2 cylinder. So you see lots of guys get in the habit, just go crack like that. That's a good way to lose your seal if, in fact, you had excessive CO2 on your discharge. All right, so a couple of things. I said I wanted to back my adjuster out just a little bit. So I'm going to release the lock. And I'm going to put a quarter turn counterclockwise, like that. Put my lock back in. Make sure it's set. As mentioned before, there is no PRV adjustment in this marker now. So we're just gonna go ahead and wind this all the way up. And when I do that, I like to find like a nice spot where I can remember its original starting position. So we're gonna call it grip down is essentially 0. Well, not 0, but how the marker came out of the box. So that is 1. The adjustment is unusually tight, so there's no CO2 in this right now. So that was 1 full turn from factory. Let's try for 1 more. So that is 2 full turns, and I think I'm just gonna stop there because I mean, I'd love to demonstrate the PRV blowing off, and when it does, you know, really all you gotta do is adjust your adjuster back until it stops venting. But that can be dependent on temperature in your garage, temperature of your CO2, you know, what planet you're on really. So put a dab of lube on here again. Stick it in, lock the cap down. And a quarter turn was probably too much, so I'll probably go forward another one. All right, burning kinetics once again. Fresh CO2 in there. Will it puncture? It did puncture. Didn't feel like a strong puncture, but nevertheless, it takes a little bit of fine tuning, and your CO2s could be different. So that's why I say stick with whatever brand you set it up for, unless you're willing to do the adjustments every time. It is pretty reliable. It's not that picky. All right, burning kinetics, 2 turns on the velocity. $37. It's a lot hotter. Not the 425 that the LE sees, not yet anyways, but are you 64? Are you 44? You'll see I'm kind of shooting down in the trap. That's just because these burning kinetics are kind of light and they don't kick that fabric is hard to slow them down. Wait, 50? $350? $350. We got one more. Nope, that was it. Pretty consistent. I'm just gonna do one more mag of the joules and we're gonna cut the video. And the next one's gonna be D-block. And maybe a little tweaking on the feet per second, on the velocity. I can't do the calculations off my head, but my objective I mentioned in the comments was maintain a 20 plus joule average, if not more, but on a single 12 gram. So let's just see what these joules do, and that's it. 8 gram joules. $222. Now this is the same CO2, so $218. $220. Still pretty consistent though. $224. So it probably could do with another little tweak on the velocity. $224. But as I mentioned, we're gonna save that for another video. There's a little drop there. 196. I think that was the last one. It was. Don't you love when CO2 does that? You think it's out and then it kind of warms up a little bit. I just heard the bolt click again. Remember, too much CO2, give it a sec just to warm up, or at least don't just shoot it out on the floor, guys. Just have a look, make sure your seal is not frozen to the end. like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for the follow-ups. This marker will get better and cooler and smaller.